Good afternoon. Thank you guys for coming today. As we approach this new season, we're really excited about, the opportunities that have been presented in front of us. We have some new faces, some old faces, some familiar faces, and we're just looking forward to getting the group together, getting them to gel together, understanding and learning each other, and we think it'll be a fun season. We think that with our young core that we're ready to grow. I think it'll be important early for them to learn each other. I don't think it'll happen overnight, but we're very excited about the opportunities that are in front of us. There, I'd like to open to you guys. I'm ready here to take questions. The most pleased about, I would say that, we had everyone coming for the off-season workouts, the voluntary workouts. That was very encouraging to see all the guys here. I think with the group that we have, them learning each other is very important. And the faster we can expedite that process, the better. And so I think they're starting to learn each other. And, the first couple of weeks, everything is really nice. And got a little chippy a little bit, which is good. They're playing against each other and competing, but also learning each other. And, that was good to see. I'm also excited about that we have a lot of preseason games on the road. With the new arena renovations, I think it'll be a good time for the guys to learn each other, spending time with each other on the road. Yes, we should have everybody done.
Talk about the maturation process, man.
He's had a really good summer. He really committed to the off-season program. He's been here a lot. Coming back late at night, he was here the other night, late night, lifting weights. He added muscle to his frame. He spent a lot of time with our coaching staff. He spent a lot of time with mine, our coach and our assistants. He's ready. It's fun to watch him grow. And he still comes in with a huge smile on his face every day, but he comes to work.
So your owner said he's ready to win now. Is he going to be correct?
I'm never good at that. I just like to put the team together. I think that the important thing is going to be them learning each other. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. Is it going to be a week, a month, 2 months? I'm not sure. But the big thing is going to be these guys learning how to play off of each other and playing together.
We know it's going to take a little while for them to gel, but what do you like about the way the pieces fit together on this team?
I like the core. I like the personalities. I like, guys can do different things. We have some options. And I'm really excited, talking to Monty and, some of the groups that we can put together. And so, I think it'll be fun. I can't wait for, training camp to start.
Do you feel like a three-guard lineup is something that can be kind of prevalent in this conference this season?
I like to look at it as a coach. I think he'll put the group together and figure out, what would be the best situation for us.
You talk about your relationship with Mickey Loomis, and what's it like being over here all the time now, the kind of the synergy between the two organizations?
Oh, it's been great. You can bounce ideas off each other, and just picking things up from him, little things, and everything from when you're talking about the business side to the sports side. There's some differences, but yet there's a lot of similarities.
You think specific?
Those are our deep, dark secrets. Can't share those.
So along the same line as Brett's question, it kind of seems in theory you're going to have multiple players that can handle the ball, penetrate, and score. Is that almost kind of like a must now in the NBA? You have to have a lot of different options.
I think you do want to have a deep team with different options, but there's a variety of ways to win in the NBA. I don't think there's just one way. Some teams have strong inside forces. Some teams have a mixture of big, small. Some teams are guard. I think that we have to do it ourselves, but I think there's different ways to skin the cat. And the path we've taken is, we've got a lot of guys that can handle the ball, a lot of guys that can create. I think we have some pretty good shooters as well. so I said, just that gelling, you know, that's gonna be the thing, like, you know, how do we, you know, get those, that gelling?
It's nice not to have a fancy place
I'm just happy everyone's helping.
Hey, Dell, does this team remind you of any team you have associated with, excuse me, or witnessed in previously?
You know, I think it's, you know, we have some different parts. And I don't know if there's any one team that we've patted ourselves after, but I think some of the strong things that we have is that, you know, we got a young core, we got a group of guys that are, you know, most of them are under 27, 28, but the core of them are 23 to 25. They all have, you know, 4 or 5 years of experience in the NBA. I think that's the unique thing. And, you know, you had Anthony going to his second year at 20 in Austin. You know, I think we have young guys with their experience. And, you know, they've taken their bumps and bruises, and, you know, now a lot of them are trying to make their way and prove themselves in the league.
You must be eager to see Austin Rivers' development. His last half of basketball seemed like he was finally clicking and then cut off.
Yeah, you know, that was the part, I still remember sitting in the locker room with him when we told him that, you know, he broke his hand, and, you know, he got off to a rough start, and then he was really starting to play well. And I thought he was playing well on both ends. I thought on the defensive end, he was really competing and guarding guys, and then, you know, on the offensive end, things that slowed down for him, he started to figure things out. But he's had a really good summer. He played very well in summer league. He participated in off-season conditioning, and he's in great shape. He's been spending on, I mean, he stays in the gym. I mean, the other day, you know, most of the guys that left around 11:30, 12, he was still there about 1:30 working on his game. So his commitment is there, and you know, he's definitely put the time in.
Are you concerned about your rebounding, and if not, why?
You know, there's always going to be a concern, but, you know, I think Anthony's a very good rebounder. I think Ryan's a very good rebounder. Jason, I mean, I think we got guys, you know, Alfred Camino's a very good rebounder. And we have some guys that can really go get the ball. It might not be in the traditional way, but we have guys that can go get the ball for glass. And then, you know, I think our guards are going to be able to rebound as well.
It might seem obvious, but in your words, could you just kind of like list and maybe reflect on a couple of the ways at this point in this season is significantly different than any year since you've been here?
You know, I think that the difference is that, you know, the new faces that we're bringing in, the young core, and like we have a core group together right now that is relatively young, and that's what makes it different. And you know, I think last year we kind of, you know, we're kind of finding ourselves in the first year I was here. You know, we had a veteran group, and so just the new faces, you know, that's going to be the thing, and watching the guys take that next step. You know, that's for us to take that next step.
What about like the identity of the franchise and the physical facilities and everything?
I mean, that speaks for itself. You know, you know, and you have to thank the Benson family for providing us with everything we need to be successful. I mean, we got a state-of-the-art facility, new arena. You know, it's exciting times for us right now.
Have you been able to witness the central battle? Is that just in maybe pickup games or anything? Between Jeff and Greg?
Yeah, you know, they've been playing. You know, it's you know, it's nothing, you know, I can point my finger on, but, you know, one thing I've learned is that sometimes you don't get too up or too down in what goes on in the pickup games. You know, it's not very structured. You know, I'll get a little more excited once the practices and the preseason start.
What do you think is
What role do you have for the young veterans on the team? What do you expect out of them?
You know, I mean, you know, in some ways they've already, you know, exceeded some expectations by just showing up and being here and their commitment, and that's been big. But, you know, just talking to all those guys individually and talking to them as a group, you know, I like the guys. You know, I like the people. I like their commitment level. I like their talent, their skill set. And, you know, for me to have a certain expectation, I don't know what that is, but, you know, potential is the thing I think I like the most.
What's the biggest challenge in building a franchise from where you are into a contender?
Yeah, that's a tough question. It's just getting the players, a lot of times that's the thing, there's a number of ways you can get them. You can get them through draft, you can get them through free agency, you can trade, and just getting that mix of guys together and then, trying to find a sustained success.
Do you think you found those players to recycle?
Yeah, I think so. We're very happy with the group that we have.
Regarding Austin, what do you think is the reasonable timeline for someone to get comfortable? And I think like David West wasn't very productive his first 2 years, but no one thinks that's a bad pick now. Austin was, same range of pick.
I think each guy is different. There's some guys that come in right away and, they hit the ground running. And there's some guys that, sometimes it takes them 2 or 3 teams. And sometimes it takes them, 2 or 3 years in the system. I think each guy is different. You can look back at how different good players have developed and, a lot of them have different paths. And like I said, the one thing I said about Austin is, he's committed. And that's the thing that you like the most is that, you're going to get his best. You're going to get his all. He's a competitor. He's out there fighting, competing, scrapping. And, that's the thing that's been great for me to watch is how competitive it is, how much he wants it. You can see the desire on his face.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Thank you guys very much.
We got Monty coming in.